Hey parents, what if I told you that some of the most important moments in your child's development aren't the big milestone celebrations or the perfect family photos, but actually the moments when things go wrong between you and your child? What if the key to raising emotionally healthy adults isn't about being a perfect parent, but about what you do after you've made a mistake? Donald Winnicott spent his career studying thousands of parent-child relationships, and he discovered something that revolutionized how we think about child development. He found that it's not the disconnections between parent and child that cause lasting damage. It's what happens after those disconnections that determines whether a child grows up feeling secure and whole, or struggles with trust and relationships throughout their life. Let me paint a picture for you. Your 18-month-old is trying to show you something exciting they've discovered, maybe a bug in the garden or an interesting rock. But you're stressed about dinner, worried about work, and you barely glance up from your phone. You give them a distracted, "That's nice, honey," and keep scrolling. Your child's face falls. They felt invisible, unimportant, disconnected from you in that moment. Now, most parenting advice might make you feel terrible about this scenario. You might think you failed as a parent, that you've damaged your child somehow. But here's what Winnicott discovered that's so important. This kind of disconnection happens in every parent-child relationship, multiple times every day. It's not the disconnection itself that matters most. It's what you do next. Winnicott called these moments ruptures and repairs. A rupture is any moment when the emotional connection between you and your child gets broken. It might be as small as not responding when they call your name, or as big as losing your temper and saying something hurtful. These ruptures are inevitable because we're human beings, not perfect parenting robots. But here's the crucial part. When a rupture happens, we have an opportunity to repair it. And it's actually in these repair moments that some of the most important learning about relationships happens for your child. Let me go back to that example with the 18-month-old and the rock. Let's say a few minutes later, you notice that your child seems withdrawn or sad. You put down your phone, get down on their level, and say something like, "Hey, sweetheart, I wasn't really paying attention when you wanted to show me you're special. Rock, can you show me again? I really want to see what you found." In that moment of repair, you're teaching your child something profound. You're showing them that relationships can survive disconnection, that people can recognize when they've hurt someone and make it right, and that they are worth your attention and care even when you're distracted or stressed. Winnicott discovered that children who experience consistent rupture and repair cycles actually develop stronger emotional resilience than children who experience either perfect attunement or frequent ruptures without repair. This might seem counterintuitive, but think about it. Real relationships involve conflict, misunderstanding, and disconnection. When children learn early that these problems can be recognized and fixed, they develop confidence in their ability to navigate the challenges of human relationships. Now, let me talk about what happens when ruptures aren't repaired, because this is where Winnicott's warning becomes so important. When a child experiences disconnection from their parent, and that disconnection isn't acknowledged or repaired, they start to make sense of the experience in ways that can shape their entire worldview. A very young child doesn't have the cognitive ability to think, "Mom is having a hard day, and that's why she's not responding to me." Instead, they're more likely to conclude something like, "I'm not important," or "My feelings don't matter," or "I have to be perfect to get love and attention." These early conclusions become what psychologists call internal working models. Basic beliefs about themselves, about other people, and about how relationships work. And here's the scary part. These beliefs formed in early childhood often persist into adulthood, influencing how people see themselves and interact with others for decades. Let me share a story that really illustrates this. Winnicott worked with a woman in her 30s who struggled with deep feelings of shame and unworthiness in all her relationships. She couldn't accept compliments. She was constantly worried that people were going to abandon her, and she had a pattern of pushing away anyone who got too close to her. As they explored her early experiences, they discovered something important. When she was a toddler, her mother had gone through a period of severe depression. During those months, this little girl had tried again and again to get her mother's attention and comfort, but her mother was too overwhelmed by her own pain to respond consistently. Now, the mother wasn't being intentionally neglectful. She was struggling with a serious illness, but because the disconnections between mother and child were never acknowledged or repaired, this little girl concluded that she must be fundamentally flawed or unlovable. That belief followed her into adulthood and influenced every relationship she had. This is what Winnicott meant when he warned that small disconnections can shape broken adults. It's not that one moment of inattention will traumatize your child. It's the accumulation of unrepaired disconnections over time that can leave lasting wounds. But here's the hopeful part of Winnicott's message, and this is why I'm sharing this with you. These patterns can be interrupted at any point. It's never too late to start practicing rupture and repair with your children. And it's never too late to help heal wounds that might have already formed. Let's talk about what repair actually looks like in practice, because this is a skill that many of us never learned in our own childhoods. Repair isn't about being perfect or never making mistakes. It's about taking responsibility when we do disconnect from our children and making an effort to restore the relationship. Sometimes repair can be immediate. Maybe you snap at your child because you're tired, and you immediately notice they're hurt. Expression. You can pause right there and say, "I'm sorry I used that tone with you. You didn't deserve that. I'm feeling stressed about something else, but that's not your fault." Other times, repair might happen later. Maybe you don't realize until bedtime that you were distracted and dismissive during an important conversation with your child earlier in the day. You can go back and say, "I was thinking about our talk earlier, and I don't think I was really listening to you. Can you tell me again what was on your mind?" The key elements of effective repair are acknowledgement, responsibility, and reconnection. You acknowledge that a disconnection happened. You take responsibility for your part in it without making excuses, and you make an effort to reconnect with your child emotionally. Now, I want to address something that worries a lot of parents. Some people think that apologizing to children undermines their authority or teaches children that adults make mistakes. But Winnicott's research showed exactly the opposite. Children who see their parents take responsibility for mistakes and work to repair relationships actually develop more respect for their parents. Not less. Think about it from your child's perspective. When you acknowledge your mistakes and make efforts to repair them, you're modeling emotional intelligence, integrity, and the kind of humility that makes relationships work. You're showing your child that love doesn't mean never making mistakes. It means caring enough to recognize when you've hurt someone and working to make it right. Children also learn by watching how we handle our own imperfections. When we can admit our mistakes without falling apart, when we can take responsibility without becoming defensive, when we can repair relationships without losing our dignity, we're teaching our children these same skills. Let me share another story that really demonstrates the power of repair. There was a father who had a terrible day at work and came home feeling angry and overwhelmed. When his 6-year-old son ran up to greet him with excitement about something that had happened at school, the father brushed him off harshly and told him to leave him alone. The little boy's face crumpled, and he quietly went to his room. The father immediately felt terrible, but his pride kept him from addressing it right away. He told himself his son would get over it, that kids are resilient, that one bad moment wouldn't matter. But over the next few days, he noticed that his son seemed more hesitant around him, less likely to share exciting news, more careful and subdued. The father realized that his moment of harshness had created a small crack in their relationship, and that crack was growing wider the longer it went unaddressed. Finally, he went to his son's room and said, "Hey buddy, I need to talk to you about the other day when you came to tell me about school and I was mean to you. That wasn't okay. You were excited and wanted to share with me, and I hurt your feelings. I'm really sorry. It wasn't about you. I was having a hard day, but that's not your fault. Can you forgive me?" His son immediately brightened and climbed into his father's lap. "It's okay, Daddy," he said. "I still love you." And then he launched into the story about school that he'd been trying to share days earlier. The repair had not only healed the rupture, but it had actually strengthened their relationship because his son now knew that his father cared enough to come back and make things right. This is the power of repair in action. It doesn't just fix the immediate problem. It builds resilience, trust, and security that children carry with them throughout their lives. Winnicott also discovered something important about the timing of repair. While it's never too late to repair a rupture, the sooner we can address disconnections, the easier they are to heal. When we let ruptured connections go unaddressed for long periods, children start to adapt to the disconnection, and it becomes harder to restore the relationship. This is especially important to understand when it comes to teenagers. Many parents notice that their previously close relationship with their child becomes strained during the teenage years, and they assume this is just normal adolescent behavior. While some distance is normal as teenagers develop independence, chronic disconnection often has roots in unrepaired ruptures from earlier years. A teenager who learned early in life that their parents don't repair relationship problems may become increasingly distant and stop trying to connect. They might seem like they don't care about the relationship anymore, but often they're just protecting themselves from further disappointment. The good news is that repair work can happen at any age. It might take more time and patience with older children who have developed stronger protective walls, but the basic process is the same. Acknowledge the disconnections that have happened, take responsibility for your part in them, and make genuine efforts to reconnect. Here's something else that's important to understand about rupture and repair. The goal isn't to prevent all ruptures. That would be impossible and actually wouldn't serve your child well. Children need to learn that relationships can survive conflict and disconnection because that's what real relationships are like. The goal is to become more aware of when ruptures happen and more skilled at repairing them. This means paying attention to your child's emotional state, noticing when they seem withdrawn or hurt after an interaction with you, and being willing to address problems even when it's uncomfortable. Sometimes children will tell you directly when they feel hurt or disconnected. They might say things like, "You weren't listening to me," or "You were mean to me earlier." When children are brave enough to express these feelings, it's a gift. They're giving you the opportunity to repair the relationship. Other times, you'll need to pick up on more subtle cues. Maybe your usually talkative child becomes quiet, or your affectionate child becomes distant. These changes in behavior often signal that a rupture has occurred and needs attention. Winnicott believed that one of the most important gifts we can give our children is the experience of having their emotional reality acknowledged and validated. When we practice rupture and repair, we're teaching our children that their feelings matter, that relationships are worth fighting for, and that love is stronger than conflict. We're also giving them a template for how to handle problems in their own relationships throughout life. Children who learn early that disconnections can be repaired are more likely to work through conflicts in their friendships, romantic relationships, and eventually with their own children. The alternative, children who learn that relationship problems go unaddressed and that disconnections are permanent, often struggle with trust, intimacy, and conflict resolution throughout their lives. They might become people who run away from relationships at the first sign of trouble, or who stay in unhealthy relationships because they don't believe repair is possible. So here's my challenge for you as parents. Start paying attention to the small moments of disconnection in your relationship with your child. Notice when your child's face falls because you were distracted. Notice when they withdraw after you've been impatient or dismissive. Notice when the emotional temperature between you feels off. And then practice repair. It doesn't have to be perfect or eloquent. Sometimes the most powerful repairs are the simplest ones. I wasn't really present with you earlier, and I'm sorry. I can see I hurt your feelings. Can we talk about it? I made a mistake, and I want to make it right. Remember, you're not just solving the immediate problem when you repair ruptures with your child. You're building their capacity for resilience, trust, and healthy relationships. You're teaching them that love isn't about perfection. It's about showing up, taking responsibility, and caring enough to make things right when they go wrong. That's the kind of foundation that creates emotionally healthy adults who can navigate the complexities of human relationships with confidence and grace.